On the humid summer night of August 14th, 2019, at precisely 11:52 p.m., a desperate 911 call echoed from a remote farmhouse outside of Kingman, Arizona. The caller, identified as 42-year-old rancher Derek Ashby, reported a terrifying home invasion, but his words were cut short by a chilling thud. By dawn, responding deputies found the farmhouse eerily silent, the front door ajar, and a single bloody boot print leading into the desolate desert scrub. The ensuing manhunt for Derek and his wife, Monica Reyes, would uncover a dark secret buried beneath the Arizona sun, a secret that had been hidden for years.
The Arizona sun, a relentless hammer, beat down on the scorched earth of Pima County. Dust devils, like ephemeral ghosts, danced across the vast, empty canvas of the Sonoran Desert. It was here, on a sprawling ranch that stretched towards an unforgiving horizon, that Derek Ashby had built his life, or so it seemed. For over a decade, he was the quiet rancher, a man etched by the sun and wind, his faded blue eyes perpetually squinting against the glare. His hair, once a rich brown, was now bleached by the elements, his hairline a testament to the passage of time and perhaps stress. He wore the uniform of his trade, worn denim jeans, plaid shirts with sleeves rolled up to reveal tanned forearms, and scuffed leather boots that had walked countless miles on this unforgiving land. A faint scar above his left eyebrow, a relic from a childhood mishap, was the only visible imperfection on a face that otherwise spoke of stoic endurance. Neighbors saw a man dedicated to his work, a picture of rural simplicity. They didn't see the shadows that clung to him, the past he was so desperate to outrun, a past riddled with debt, scrutiny, and perhaps something far more dangerous. He had sought this isolation, this vast silence as a balm, a place to forge a new existence, free from the entanglements that had threatened to drown him. His objective was clear: to vanish, to shed his old skin like a snake, leaving behind not just a life, but any lingering obligations, any whispers of legal troubles. He yearned for an untroubled future, a clean slate written on the endless expanse of the desert. His marriage to Monica Reyes, a woman who seemed to possess a quiet strength that complemented his own, was the anchor in this new world he was attempting to construct. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly stable life, financial pressures and secrets, carefully concealed, were beginning to surface. The ranch itself, a patchwork of sun-baked corrals and dusty outbuildings, was more than just a property. It was his carefully constructed facade, his sanctuary, and ultimately, the stage for his vanishing act. The silence of the desert was not just a geographical feature, it was a chosen accomplice, a vast, indifferent witness to his carefully planned erasure. He often stood at the edge of the property, gazing out at the shimmering heat haze, the mountains a distant hazy blue against the impossibly vast sky. Each sunrise was a new beginning, each sunset a quiet reaffirmation of his decision to disappear. But the desert, for all its silence, has a way of holding on to its secrets, and the echoes of what had truly transpired on this remote ranch would eventually find their way back into the world, carried on the dry, biting winds. The local sheriff's department, miles away in Tucson, received the initial call on a Tuesday in late September. A concerned neighbor, Martha Jenkins, hadn't seen any activity at the Ashby Ranch for nearly a week. No lights, no vehicles moving, no smoke from the chimney. This was unusual, even for the reclusive Ashby, who typically kept to himself but maintained a predictable routine. The phone call, a crackle of static and concern over the line, initiated a process that would slowly, agonizingly begin to chip away at the desert's silence and the carefully constructed facade of Derek Ashby's life. Haley Townsend, a detective with the Pima County Sheriff's Department, a woman whose sharp mind and tenacious spirit were beginning to earn her a reputation, was assigned the case. The initial report painted a picture of a routine missing person, but Haley sensed something more, a subtle dissonance in the sparse details that hinted at a deeper, more complex narrative. The Ashby Ranch was remote, a 2-hour drive from Tucson, down a long, unpaved road that snaked through scrub brush and cacti. As Haley's patrol car bumped along the rutted track, the sheer isolation of the place became palpable. The air grew heavy, the silence profound, broken only by the crunch of tires on gravel and the distant cry of a hawk. This was not just a place where a man had disappeared. It was a place where a life had been deliberately scrubbed away, and the desert was the only one who knew the truth, a truth that was about to be unearthed, piece by painstaking piece. The story of Derek Ashby's disappearance was just beginning, and the desert held its breath, waiting. Detective Haley Townsend's patrol car finally crunched to a halt in the dust outside the Ashby Ranch house. The silence here wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, pregnant with unspoken questions. The house itself, a modest single-story structure, seemed to hold its breath. The air was thick with the scent of dry earth and creosote, a perfume unique to the Sonoran Desert. Stepping out of the car, Haley surveyed the scene, her hazel eyes scanning every detail. The windows were dark, the porch dusty and deserted. It felt as if the inhabitants had simply evaporated, leaving behind only the echoes of their presence. Her training kicked in, a calm, methodical approach to the unsettling stillness. She noticed the gate was slightly ajar, not violently forced, but left open as if by someone in a hurry or someone who didn't expect to be questioned. The faint tire tracks leading away from the house were indistinct, quickly being erased by the persistent desert wind. Inside, the house was eerily tidy. Dishes were clean and stacked in the drainer, a half-finished book lay open on a bedside table, and clothes were neatly folded in drawers. It spoke not of a struggle, but of an abrupt departure, a planned exit rather than an abduction. Yet there was a peculiar absence of personal effects that usually accompany a hasty retreat. No packed bags, no emergency supplies left out, nothing to suggest a panicked flight. It was too neat, too perfect. This stillness, this unnerving order began to prickle at Haley's professional intuition. This wasn't just a simple missing person case. Something felt orchestrated. She meticulously documented everything, her camera clicking, her notepad filling with observations. The ranch equipment lay scattered around the corrals, saddles on racks, feed bins full, tools neatly arranged in the workshop. Derek Ashby was known for his dedication to his ranch. For all this to be abandoned without a trace, without a single sign of distress or foul play evident at first glance, was highly unusual. A half-eaten meal on the kitchen table, a coffee mug still warm, a hastily written note, none of that was present. It was as if the occupants had simply walked out into the desert and dissolved into the heat shimmer. As Haley delved deeper into the investigation, she began to uncover whispers about Derek Ashby's past, fragments of information gleaned from old county records and reluctant interviews with distant acquaintances. There were hints of financial trouble, of a life before the ranch that Derek rarely, if ever, spoke about. He had sought refuge here, it seemed, but refuge from what? And who was Monica Reyes, the woman who shared this silent existence with him? Her background proved even more opaque. Records were sparse, aliases were suspected, and her past was a deliberate void, a carefully constructed enigma. Neighbors described her as beautiful, reserved, and fiercely devoted to Derek, but these were observations filtered through the lens of their own limited interactions. Haley felt like she was looking at a carefully painted backdrop, and behind it, a complex hidden machinery was at work. The meticulousness of the scene suggested planning, foresight. This wasn't a spontaneous disappearance. This was an escape. And the architect, Haley began to suspect, was not the vanished rancher himself, but the woman by his side. Monica Reyes Ashby, the devoted wife, the quiet partner in a secluded life. But who was she really? Haley cross-referenced names, ran background checks, and chased down tenuous leads, each one leading to a dead end or a web of further deception. It was as if Monica Reyes had been designed to be invisible, her past meticulously scrubbed clean. Yet traces always lingered: a discrepancy in a social security number, a faded photograph, a brief mention in a long-forgotten police report from another state. These were the breadcrumbs Haley was adept at finding, the subtle inconsistencies that unraveled the most sophisticated lies. The case file grew thicker, filled with speculative theories and frustratingly incomplete data. The desert silence, once an atmospheric detail, began to feel like an active participant, deliberately obscuring the truth, protecting its secrets. Haley knew that to find Derek Ashby, or to understand what truly happened to him, she had to first dismantle the carefully woven fabric of lies that surrounded Monica Reyes. Her investigation was no longer just about a missing person. It was about uncovering a deliberate, elaborate deception, a performance meticulously staged for an audience of one: the law. The ranch, once a symbol of Derek's desired new beginning, was becoming a monument to a masterfully executed vanishing act. The question wasn't if a crime was committed, but what kind of crime, and who was the true victim, or perhaps the true perpetrator. The desert held its breath, and Haley Townsend tightened her resolve, determined to break through the silence and expose the truth, no matter how deeply buried.